So how does a UFO operate? This is wild. This is amazing information given to us by Dolly, a super experiencer interviewed often by Preston Dennett. He even wrote a book about her. Well, this particular section or segment today is from an interview that she gave with Grant Cameron, one of my favorite researchers into the anomalous. And he is particularly fascinated by experiencers, that is contactees and abductees, who have been asked by the beings at some point during their experiences to fly this craft. That is actually a fairly typical or common feature of the abductee or contactee experience, that at some point they may be asked to pilot the craft. Dolly has described merging her consciousness with that of the ship. But she has more to say, and today she's actually talking about how the UFOs function. The principles by which they work. Your nuclear reactor, we're about to get into it. We're going to mix it up a little bit. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. Get in here. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and as I'm going through the story, please comment below and let me know what you think. You can also choose to become a channel member to support the channel. This will allow me to spend more time on these videos and make them as good as you deserve. To do that, just see the first line in the description below. There's 2 tiers. Tier 2 receives exclusive access in videos. Or you can simply drop a tip in the tip jar with the Super Thanks feature below. Or, because I'm a novelist, you can just go on Amazon, buy one of my books. I write fantasy and science fiction books. That's one of them right there. Jack Connor, that's me, E.R. The Atomic Sea, that's one of my books. Okay, moving on. I've been following Dolly for years, ever since I first started seeing her being interviewed by Preston Dennett and hearing about her fantastic experiences. She is the very rare conscious experiencer, fully conscious experiencer. They never have wiped her mind for whatever reason. I don't know why they would not have wiped her mind. I think that she has addressed that, but I forgot exactly what the reason for that is. If you remember, please let me know in the comments below. But anyway, she has some really fantastic experiences, and they're going to be too fantastic for some people. Some people are going to be turned off by how nuts some of her experiences are. She has one story about seeing Anubis, the Egyptian god Anubis, god of death, about seeing multiple beings that looked like Anubis, like a race of Anubis beings aboard a UFO. So that's what you get with Dolly, is this really trippy, wild stuff. Now, that's not to say that any of it is untrue. Preston Dennett is a great researcher, and he fully believes her story and has committed a lot of time to covering it. So let's talk about what she says about how UFOs operate. This is really, really intriguing because it brings several different things together. Before I show you the clip, I have to address one of the more interesting elements of her account, is that she says that the ship itself has a consciousness. Now, that's something you get from multiple experiencers. I've often wondered how that works exactly. What is this consciousness? Is it AI? Is it a spirit somehow that has been channeled into this ship? What exactly is it? She doesn't answer all of those questions, but she does have a name that she calls that consciousness by. The consciousness that inhabits that ship. She gives it a name. To her, it has a personality and is a character in her life. So just wanted to get that out of the way. And with that, caveat, if you want to call it that, here is what she had to say to Grant Cameron.
Who actually dwells the craft. The craft is designed for this specifically. The crafts are somewhat biological. They have biological components to them, and that helps him ground to it. I've known him my whole life.
Are you saying the craft has a name?
Yes, the entity that indwells him, the craft, is called, I call him Talara. It's a long name that he has, and I can't pronounce the whole thing. So I There was one part of it I could pronounce,
Okay.
and that's it. And he let me get away with calling him Galata. So that's who he is.
Talk a little bit about that's. I'm just coming out with a book on people who have flown the craft. Have you flown the craft, and can you describe how
Yes.
this process works? Describe it in somewhat as much detail as you can as to how this works.
All ET crafts are flown psychically. Okay, they don't have what you would call technological components that are tied together at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Talata's in charge of it. He's in he's running the entire show. They're what I call they're very elegant in their design and how they function. They have a nuclear base. It's a very small nuclear chamber where they fire up an element that is so powerful that it creates a graviton wave. Okay. The element is, they don't have to use a lot of it because it's that powerful, and it's a type of nuclear element that it burns itself out right away. In other words, it leaves no waste. It's and it only takes a small amount. They use that to go interdimensional. They use it to mostly power themselves up outside our atmosphere. They don't dare come in with that running because it's too hot. It could kill us. If they got too close to you, it would burn you up. Yeah. So when they come into atmosphere, they go to batteries. They have like the smaller craft have 3 batteries. The larger they are, either the bigger the battery or they have 2 or 3 more situated in the craft. Generally, when they come down, they go to batteries just as they're entering atmosphere, and they drop their plasma field, because something that hot when they're running it creates an entire plasma field outside their field. They have the smaller craft have 3 emitters in them, 2 up top, 1 down front, and the bigger the craft, the more emitters, and it creates 2 fields. One engulfs the craft itself, and then the other one is what skiffs or glides on electromagnetism. They surf it, or they run it like a boat on waves in the water, only this is all magnetism. Our planet has plenty of that, and we have gravitational. When our electromagnetosphere from our core shoots out, magnetically, and they come in and they ride the waves of it. It's like being on a boat.
Fascinating, right? Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. She talks about the nuclear device that powers this stuff. Apparently, when they're in the beyond the Earth, and how they're very careful about using that when they come into the Earth's atmosphere and interacting with people. They may not be as careful as they could be, however, because we have seen again and again how people will get sick from proximity to UFOs. Could this be the explanation for that? Very possibly. She also talks about a particular element. She does not give this element a name in this interview. I can't remember what she has said in the past, but my mind, as well as yours, might very well go to element 115, the element that Bob Lazar said was powering the craft that he worked on, and that the government had a supply of. He supposedly was able to sneak some of this element out of S4, and it was supposedly stolen back from him, but he may or may not have been able to keep some for himself. He claims that may be why the FBI raided his house when Jeremy Corbell was making the documentary about him. Critics have pointed out that, okay, if that existed, if that was real, then, surely it was radioactive. So how did he just walk off with it? And I think that's a fair point. And if Bob has addressed that, I would like to see what he said about that. Now, I do think that he has said that in its stable form, which is what they were using according to him, maybe it was not radioactive. To clarify, he said that they had it in a stable form, and I'm supposing that maybe in its stable form it was not radioactive. I can't recall if that's what he said exactly or not. If you do, please let me know. Dolly also talks about how the UFOs bob like waves on the water when they enter the Earth's electromagnetic field. Now, this is a very intriguing comment, and I've heard similar comments before, but it's particularly intriguing when one analyzes the video shot by George Adamski. Now, many people have, debunked George Adamski. However, from what I've seen, he was on the level. Now, maybe he got carried away later on in his public career, but his initial accounts, at least, I believe to be accurate, and from the research I've done, seem to be legit. But he has this video where you can see this UFO bobbing up and down. Yeah, that thing. So it looks, it looks pretty fake, right? You see this thing bobbing up and down. Initial impression is, yeah, it's probably BS, right? But actually, I think that's a real UFO, and it is bobbing up and down because it is surfing on the Earth's electromagnetic current, which is exactly what Dolly is talking about. It just kind of floats along on this magnetic current, so it has this very erratic pattern. Now, in that particular video, if you slow it down and analyze it, you can see the little nodules on the bottom. And those are the same 3 nodules that Bob Lazar talked about that allow it to change direction. So it's operating on the same principles that Bob Lazar is talking about, which is interesting. Those little nodules are slowly changing position in that video, which would have been beyond the abilities of any special effects artists back then working on whatever budget they would have had to work with, which would have been very little. And especially since it's not even highlighted, it's a very subtle thing in that video. So the chances of that video being faked, in my opinion, are extremely low. And Dolly's logic really explains why it moves the way it does. So in a sense, Dolly corroborates George Adamski. Anyway, interesting stuff. Let me know what you think about these principles of how UFOs maneuver, and if what Dolly says rings home to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access in videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.